boys and girls. Today we're going to be starting a new lesson. I'm going to be showing you an artist named Thiebaud, and he is an American pop artist. Thiebaud is an American painter, and he's well known for paintings of everyday objects found in diners and cafeterias, such as some of my favorites, pies and cakes, ice cream cones, pastries, and donuts. He's associated with the pop art movement because of his interest in objects of popular culture. That's why pop art movement is called the pop art movement. It's not because things pop out at you, it's because they're based on things that are found in popular culture. When something's popular, it means that everybody knows what it is and that they like it. So, pop culture was really meant to be a positive influence in the art society, in the art world, and it was artwork that was made really to make you feel good and have good memories, and it was kind of fun art at the time. His paintings that he really started were around the 1950s and 1960s. So he actually is thought to have had the most influence on the pop art movement to really get it started. And then other people like Andy Warhol and Keith Haring followed suit, and they all became part of what's known as the pop art movement. Let's continue looking at some of his paintings. This is one of his more well-known pieces called Three Machines. It's called Three Machines because it's of three gumball machines. And you'll notice he uses really bright, fun, happy colors. Here's a detail of one of those gumball machines, and you can see that the outlines are not actually black. They're made of color, and lots of color. If you take a look here at the details at the back edge of the wall here, you'll see there's orange and green to make that line. Here, the edge of the gumball machine here is made with orange and green, and here we have some orange and blue. So we're having kind of this idea of complementary colors mixed to make a line instead of just using black. If you also notice here, there looks like a thick application of paint, and he was known for doing that as well. It almost looked like he painted with frosting. He liked to use a lot of paint. So here's a close-up, as I said, of the gumball machine, and I wanted you to notice his use of color and his heavy use of paint. He used exaggerated colors and heavy paint to depict or show his subjects or what he was painting. And the well-defined shadows is also what he's known for using. And this was known in advertising as well. So if you see big ads in advertising for, I don't know, Nike shoes, Coca-Cola cans, you'll find really strong cast shadows and contrast in colors in these to make it more eye-catching. And that's what he was doing in his artwork. So if you look at the cast shadows that he's using here, he usually used the color blue. Most people think that cast shadows should be black because shadows are dark. But in his paintings, he used it as blue. And if it snows outside and you look outside in the snow and you see shadows, they usually are blue as well. They're not black. Black would make it look dirty. So if we take a look here, you have these strong, very specific shapes of cast shadows of those objects. And you should be able to see that he used blue for those shadows. Now, when we're talking about shadows, shadows do have specific shapes based on the objects that are creating them. So here we have some cakes on these platters, on these really tall poles. So they're up really, really high. And if you take a look, the shadows that they're casting actually have something to do with the shape of those cakes and their plates. If you look, the cast shadows mimic or look like the shape of the object that's creating them or casting them. So look at the shape of the cake and the platter. And now take a look over here at this blue shape. You should notice it almost looks like a top hat, but it's that shape of the cake, the platter, and then that pole, that cast shadow that's creating. So here's a drawing by Thiebaud. So the other ones we looked at were paintings. This is a drawing that he made. And he's using the same ideals as he does in his paintings, but you'll notice it looks a little bit different. Hopefully what you're looking at and seeing is the overall texture. So in his paintings, it had this creaminess. This looked like he was painting with icing. And here we have a little bit more graininess, and that's because this is done with chalk pastel. That's what he liked to draw with, sometimes with pencil as well. And you can really see the graininess and the texture and the movement of his pencil across the page. You can even see that texture of the crisscross waffle cone in his ice cream cones. They certainly look yummy. So I wanted you to notice the different textures in drawing versus in painting. Now we are going to start to look more at some of his paintings of specific foods and specifically of his donuts, because that's what this next project is going to be about. So here we have a painting he made of donuts. Here are kind of like cream puffs, and once again you'll see those really deep blue shadows that are cast. Here we have a cupcake with icing with that blue shadow, and here we have lollipops. Now he didn't only paint food, he painted clothing, he painted display cases, he painted landscapes, but based on the fact that I think this is more fun, I decided to make this lesson all about donuts, because who doesn't love a donut? So once again, we have our gumball machines, we have our cakes, Wayne Thiebaud, the American pop painter, and we are going to be making today, I'm going to show you how to make really a 3D box that looks like it's a bird's eye view. Now, a bird's eye view is basically, think of yourself as a bird flying overhead and looking down at something. That would be what a bird's eye view is. So it's an elevated view of an object from above perspective or overhead view. So think of yourself, as I said, as a bird looking down. So this is a painting of a bird's eye view of a box of all different types of delicious donuts that Wayne Thiebaud made. And we are going to make drawings or paintings or whatever materials you have. We're going to try our best to make it look like his box of donuts. So stay tuned, and I'm going to show you step by step how you're going to be able to do this. Awesome. Hi, boys and girls. Now we're going to get started on working on some donuts. So if you take a look, I have my workspace all set up. I have some colored pencils, I have regular pencils, some markers, some colored markers over here. I even have some more colored pencils here. Now you might not have the same amount of art supplies as me, and you could just use whatever you'd like. But I want to start to show you that you do need to make these look as good as you can, some objects that are circular in shape that you can trace. So I looked around my house and I found a roll of tape, I found a cup, I found a can of soup, I found an old container. So you can find things that are circular in shape that you can use as a tracer. Now, depending on how big your piece of paper is, you might want to have a smaller circle to trace from. So you might want to use the bottom of a cup instead of the top part of a cup, because you want to be able to fill your box, which would be this whole sheet of paper, with as many donuts as possible, because of course, who doesn't love having more donuts than they need? Now, as I said before in my lessons, normally I would start by using a pencil, but so that you can see from this distance, I'm going to be using a marker. So the first thing I want to do is put in place my box. And I'm going to show you how to make it look like there really is a box that's 3D that these donuts are going to sit in. Now, you don't need to use a ruler. If you're somebody who likes things to be perfect and you have a ruler, by all means you can use one. But what you want to do is start by making some angled lines in each of the four corners of your page. So I'm going to make one diagonal line here, and it should be just about the width or length of your fingertip, nothing too big. And if you can, you want to try and make those lines about the same size in each of the corners. Okay? And then you're going to connect those each with straight lines connecting point to point. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to try my best to make a straight line. If it's not perfectly straight, that's okay. And here I've created one point. Notice my line is not perfectly straight. I'm totally fine with that. And now I'm going to make another one here, point to point. And I'm going to do the same here. And I'm going to do the same here. So this is basically my box. This inner rectangle that I just created is going to be the bottom of my box. These are really the sides that you're looking into for the box. So I don't want you to actually draw anything in this space. All of your donuts are going to be in that inner rectangle. So I think I'm going to use my cup, because in looking, if I were to use the bigger part of my cup, I might just be able to make 4 donuts. If I use the smaller part of my cup, I'll probably be able to fit 6. This can of soup, Once again, maybe I could probably do 4. So you could test different circle size out. With this roll of tape, I might only be able to fit 1 or 2. And that's okay too. If you only want 1 donut in your box, that's fine too. But the picture we looked at from Wayne Thiebaud, he had a whole full box of donuts in a different array, a different assortment. So we're gonna try and do that the best that we can. So you're gonna take your tracer and place it somewhere in that inner box, and you're going to trace it around. And here I have a general shape of my first donut. I'm gonna leave a little bit of space. I do not want my donuts to overlap, because I actually hate when that happens. If you've ever gotten a box of donuts and they overlap and some of the icing of one donut gets on the icing of the other, that, I don't know why, but that bothers me. I don't like that. So I'm gonna try and keep them separate. There I have my 3 donuts here. I'm gonna have another one here. And sometimes there's different shaped donuts or muffins, like crullers, or I don't know, croissants if you were fancy and you want something different. So I'm gonna make a different shape here, maybe for an eclair or for another type of pastry, and that's gonna be up to you. Now, some donuts look just like this, and maybe they just have some glaze along the top. Now, glaze would not be a perfect circle or an edge. It would be kind of globby because it's poured on top, so that could be the glaze. Just to show you a little bit closer the type of line that I made. It's kind of a curving, kind of wavy line. When I go to make the center, the hole of my donut, you want to try and make sure that that hole makes sense. You don't want to make your donut look like a hula hoop. You want that hole to be in the correct proportion or size relationship to make your donut look like a real donut. And then just like I did here, my icing for it, I would kind of make a wobbly, wiggly line. Or if you prefer perfect donuts, your line could be nice and clean. So here, just to show you, I made kind of a wobbly line for that donut. When I go here, I can make another donut. And maybe this one I'll have a cleaner edge of icing for those of you who want to see what that looks like. So instead of doing a wobbly line, I'm going to leave a clean line. And if you notice, I'm making an edge for icing both around the inner edge of the circle and the outer edge, because that's where the icing would sit. So you should see the difference between the cleaner edge of icing and the wavier line here that made like a wavier edge of icing. And then not all donuts actually have icing on top. I think this one I'm gonna make a jelly donut. So I'm gonna show a little bit of that jelly, just kind of squishing out of the side, and maybe show part of the side of that donut. So if you look here, I showed a little bit of where that jelly is gonna come out of, and I might make that grape jelly or strawberry jelly, that's gonna be up to me. And I'm gonna make this an eclair. And usually eclairs have kind of that chocolate ganache on top. And if you want, you could make even a drizzle on top. But if you make a drizzle that's just a line, like I did here, you won't be able to color that in as a flavor. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna outline that line, almost make it like a bubble letter, and I'm gonna retrace that line with a little bit of space. And connect it so this way it's almost like a tube or a snake that I'll be able to color in. Now, when you start to color in, I like to use crayons for this, but once again, just like we talked about in previous lessons, if you have colored pencils, you can use colored pencils. If you have paint, you can use paint. If you have markers, you can use markers. I'm going to be using crayons. As I told you before, Mrs. Goodman doesn't love everything to be nice, neat, and clean. I like to spill my crayons out so I can see them all, but I do this gently so that they don't break. Now, I'm going to make this one more of like a chocolate eclair kind of donut, so I'm going to use brown to make my chocolate icing. If you press lightly, you'll get a light kind of fudginess to your donut. If you press hard, you could start to create a shadow. You can have it darker in some places and lighter in other. And that's creating value within your drawing, and it's gonna make it look a little bit more realistic. So if you notice, based on where I drew dark or pressed harder or overlapped with my crayon, it got darker, and where I drew light, it is lighter. Donut colors don't have a correct or wrong color for your donut. So I'm just going to use kind of this peach color for this donut, but you're going to see for some of my other donuts, I'm going to use oranges, I'm going to use yellows, and you can even blend colors and create your own. You can also have really as much fun as you want. You can have blue and purple donuts. I'm totally fine with that as well. So for here, I'm going to make a pink glazed donut because I like strawberry frosting on my donuts. So as I said before, first I'm going to color in lightly and to create a layer like so. And then if I want, I can press a little bit harder and make some of that be in shadow. Now, I'll give you a little trick, boys and girls. If you make sure that all your shadows are on one side and all your highlights are on the other, it will look like a realistic sense of light is hitting your box of donuts. So if you notice, I press darker on this side of the donut and lighter here, and I press darker here and lighter here, and that's going to start to give me a sense of light and shadow. So here I used peach for my donut. Here I'm going to use more of an orange color because, as I said, your donuts can be really any color, and if you want to, you can even blend color. Now for these type of donuts where you would have the icing around the edge here and here, this part in here would also be part of a donut, so I'm also going to color that in. But the hole I'm going to leave all alone because that's a hole. It wouldn't be part of the donut. So if you take a look once again, that would be the donut. But donuts, I think, should have some sprinkles. So to make sprinkles, I'm just going to make some little lines going in different directions. And I know my camera's kind of far away. I'm sorry about that, boys and girls. But if you look, I'm making some little dashed lines. And you can do that in any color because rainbow sprinkles come in a rainbow of colors. So have fun. If you have favorite colors, you can absolutely just use your favorite color of rainbow sprinkles. If you only want one color sprinkles, let's say chocolate is your favorite, you can do that. But make sure they go in all different directions. And you will start to get some sprinkles starting to look delicious. Now here I'm going to make this one a chocolate glaze again. So I'm going to use my brown for chocolate. And I'm doing this kind of fast. If at any point you want to pause or rewind, that's what's so great about videos is that you can do that. So I press lightly, coloring in, and now again, I'm going to press harder with my crayon along this one side to make it look a little bit darker, like it's a shadow. And then for my donut color, I'm going to use maybe a yellow. I haven't used that one yet, so I'm going to use a yellow just to show you the different colors that you can use for your donut. Once again, if you're making a blueberry donut or a strawberry donut, your donuts could be blue. That's fine too. So you can take a look at the difference between the peach donut, orange donut, yellow donut. Now I'm going to try and do this kind of powdered sugary donut. So what I think I'm going to do for that, because jelly donuts are usually very light, I think I'm going to use the peach very lightly. And maybe I'll press a little bit darker along that side because we talked about how that would be a shadow. And then I'm going to kind of do like a rich raspberry kind of jelly spilling out of there. And then for my chocolate eclair, I think I'm going to use yellow again to color the actual donut. I'm going to use some chocolate, but I'm not going to color over that swirl. Remember we talked about that swirl that we made? That I want to be vanilla. If you want it to be strawberry, it could be strawberry. If you want it to be schnozberry, it could be schnozberry. It's up to you what flavor any of this is going to be because it's your artwork. But I'm going to make it be vanilla. So for vanilla, I'm actually just going to leave it alone. But once again, I do want those shadows, so I'm going to make some of that darker. And I can even go darker around some of that swirl so it looks like it pops out a little bit. Everyone see how I was able to do that? Okay. Now we talked about how Wayne Thiebaud used blue to create his shadows. So ideally you'll find a nice blue that you can use to create your shadows, okay? Now remember the light is coming from here because we did all our shadows on this side. So your shadow would also be on this side. So you're almost making like a letter C or a backwards letter C along the edge of your donut. You're making C here to make your cast shadow, and you would also see it here. So you would see it inside your donut. Now if you notice I did it the opposite here, that's because if the light was coming here, the light would hit the inside of the donut on that side. So on the inside, it's on the opposite. Can everyone see that? Okay, so here I'm gonna do my shadow. And I'm just using a blue crayon. Once again, if you have a marker or a pencil, that would be fine too. And if you can even use some shadow in this icing. So if you wanted to take it one step further, you could add some shadow in your icing. All right, so here I have created my box of donuts. To make it a little bit more exciting, I'm going to create a pattern inside my box. Now this, once again, you can use crayons, you could use markers, you could use colored pencil, really whatever you want. I'm going to continue to use crayons because that's what I've been doing for my lesson, but you can use whatever you want. And I'm going to try and make it look like a pattern is behind here. I'm going to use a color that I haven't used yet, which is a true red. I like to use a contrast color so that it makes it stand out. And I'm going to just create a striped pattern. And I'm going to start and stop and start and stop so it looks like my donuts are on top of this pattern. So notice I'm not drawing the pattern through my donuts. I am merely working around them. This is going to help create a sense of depth in your drawing, because when you overlap things or make it look like things are overlapping, it makes it look like things are in front of other things. So here I can just continue doing this here, bring this up, and I'm just making some stripes. Now, don't forget the inside hole of your donut, because the inside hole here and here would also see through to the bottom of that box. So you would also have stripes going through there. Now, if you want to try the trickiest part of all is putting the stripes along that empty outside edge for your box. If you notice, this is creating a diagonal line. What you want to do is have a straight line in the middle of that section. So I made a straight line in the middle of that section. And what I want that line to do is to gradually start to become a diagonal line as it gets to the edge. So if you could see what I did there, boys and girls, it started off as straight and they slowly started to turn diagonal. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to keep it straight and then I'm going to slowly turn it into a diagonal line. That's going to start to give you some more perspective as if that is an edge that's going back down. I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to make a straight line in the middle and I'm going to slightly start to slope those lines going in either direction. And I'm going to continue to do the same thing here. And what you will be left with is a beautiful box of delicious donuts based on the art of Wayne Thiebaud. I hope you had fun with this lesson. If you have any questions or comments, you can email me And I hope you share with me some of the designs and drawings that you created of your box of donuts today. Have a great day. Bye.